Hello and welcome back to Koala Moon, children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. In tonight's story, we are going to meet a little girl called Susie, although everyone who loves her calls her Snoozy Suzy, and you'll soon find out why. Well, we're soon going to meet her friends as well, and hear all about her best ever blanket fort, and how a certain sleepy koala helps her to make it all happen. And just in case you fall asleep before the end, don't worry. You can listen back to hear all the brilliant details another time. It's time to begin Snoozy Susie's Best Ever Blanket Fort by Luke Prendergast. Snoozy Susie had been Susie's nickname since almost the day she was born. It was her mum and dad who'd first come up with it, because they noticed, in the very first weeks of her life, that there was one activity that Susie enjoyed more than any other. That's right, napping. It didn't really matter what time of the day, evening or night it was. When baby Susie got laid down in her crib or on the sofa, or even just down on her mama's lap for a moment, a dreamy smile would spread over her face. The tangle of golden curls around her head would seem to glow like a halo. Her delicate baby eyelids would close. And just like that, she would be off, napping in the land of Nod. Our little baby could snooze anywhere, Susie's mum would remark, shaking her head in wonder. She could fall asleep on a noisy train, her dad agreed. Or propped up at a busy dinner table, her mum suggested. Or hanging upside down from a tree, her dad ventured. Well, yes, her mum said to that. But we wouldn't want to try that one out. She's not even a year old, after all. As she got older, through being a toddler and into her early years of being a fully grown child, Snoozy Susie kept her favourite pastime and her nickname. She napped on the school bus. She napped in the playground. She napped beneath the table when she went over to see friends. There was absolutely nothing quite as satisfying and rejuvenating as a swift snooze, a 20-minute power nap, a cosy little kip. By no means was napping an exclusive activity for Snoozy Susie. No, she was such an advocate for napping that she regularly invited her 3 closest friends to join her, Polly, Poppy, and Pete. Ask your parents if they can bring you over to my house at the weekend, she'd tell them at school. We can play, then we can nap, and then we can play again. That's how she got into making bedtime forts, so that there'd be somewhere special for her and her friends to take their naps. At first, these forts started out very rudimentary indeed. Just a bunch of pillows or cushions laid out in the perfect arrangement on the floor, with a soft woolen blanket laid over them. But then, over time, the forts began to get more elaborate. Snoozy Susie would gather the kitchen chairs together and drape bedsheets over them, so that you could crawl under and lie on your back beneath the white cotton canopy. Or she would get her dad to set up the pop-up tent in the garden and fill it with duvets and the battery-powered nightlight that shone little yellow stars onto the black canvas ceiling. Once she even filled the bath with blankets and let the water trickle out of the tap into the sink, so that if you closed your eyes, it sounded like you were napping near a waterfall. "We love your bedtime fort, Snoozy Susie," her friends, Polly, Poppy, and Pete would remark. "They're the best bedtime forts ever." Susie was always glad to hear such compliments, but she knew in her heart of hearts that what her friends said wasn't true. Sure, she absolutely believed that they loved her bedtime forts. Who wouldn't? But she didn't think they were the best bedtime forts ever. The problem was this. Everyone had particular needs and tastes when it came to the perfect environment for having a nap. Polly, for example, she needed utter silence to sleep properly. But Poppy preferred to have some noise in the background. Pete liked to be nestled in softness and warmth. But Polly liked something firmer to sleep on. Poppy liked to nap in total darkness because even a little bit of light against her eyelids kept her awake. But poor little Pete was scared of the dark. He needed at least a nightlight on so that he felt safe and comfy enough to drop off. So, you see, that was Snoozy Susie's problem. The best bedtime fort would be able to satisfy all of her friends' different naptime needs, and hers simply didn't. What a dilemma. Then, one morning at school, Snoozy Susie trotted up to her friends in the playground, her face bright and red with excitement. I had a dream, she said to them, the words coming out a hurried garble. I had a dream. It took a little while before Polly, Poppy, and Pete managed to calm Snoozy Susie down enough to be able to understand what she was saying. It turned out that the night before, Susie had had a vivid dream in which she met a very friendly koala bear. "A koala bear?" asked Polly with a frown. "Yes," said Susie, "a koala bear. A koala bear who could talk and play the ukulele." "A ukulele?" Poppy repeated, confusion in her eyes. "Yes, a ukulele," Susie said. "And the koala bear showed me how to make the best bedtime fort ever." "Best bedtime fort?" Pete asked, a look of puzzlement on his face. From their reactions, it was clear to Snoozy Susie that her friends couldn't make heads or tails of what she was saying. "Don't worry about it," she said. "Just make sure you all come over to my house after school on Friday. And be prepared for the best naps of your entire lives so far." And with that, Susie turned on her heel and marched away across the playground, leaving her friends to watch her disappear, bewildered. Here's what happened in Snoozy Susie's dream. She was walking through a forest, rays of twilight lilac light falling through the branches overhead. The smell of pine needles drifting up from the forest floor. The only sound was the crunch of dried leaves and twigs beneath her feet, the whisper of the wind through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, the tinkling sound of water. Then there was another sound, the sound of music. Plucked strings tinkling like raindrops on a tin roof. She followed the music until she entered a clearing in the forest, and there, In the middle of the clearing, sitting on a tree stump, was a koala playing a ukulele. When Susie arrived in the clearing, the koala stopped his playing. He looked straight at her and asked, "Are you a ghost?" "Oh, no," said Susie. "I'm just a girl. Except," she added, looking around, "I think I'm asleep and dreaming." The koala nodded, as though he understood perfectly. "That makes sense," he said. "Dreaming people arrive at this clearing from different worlds from time to time. Usually when they're looking for an answer to some question on their mind. Has something been weighing on your mind lately?" The koala bear was so friendly, and this dream forest so soothing, that Snoozy Susie felt no qualm with telling the koala exactly what had been on her mind. How to make the best bedtime fort. The koala's eyes brightened when she said this. "Well, you're in luck," he told her, "because I know just how to make the best bedtime fort." "You do?" Susie said. "Oh, yes," said the koala. "And what's more, I can tell you how. But it takes a bit of engineering, a dose of magic, and a whole lot of hope. Do you think you can manage that?" Engineering, magic, hope. Susie reckoned she could master all of those things. After all, here she was in a dream, chatting away with a talking koala. If that wasn't magical, then what on earth was? Snoozy Susie nodded. The koala got up off his tree stump and laid his ukulele gently down on the ground. Then he walked over to Susie and whispered in her ear. He whispered for a long time. What he said was complicated, but Snoozy Susie listened closely. And by the time the koala had stopped talking, she believed she remembered every word he'd said. "You got that?" the koala asked her. Susie nodded. "I'm pretty sure I do. Thank you." She gave him a smile before adding, "My name's Susie, by the way, but you can call me Snoozy Susie, because that's what all my friends call me. And I think we're friends now, right?" A big, bright smile lit up the koala's face. "We're definitely friends, Snoozy Susie. And you can call me Coco," he said, "because that's my name." Sometimes Snoozy Susie remembered her dreams perfectly, total recall. Other times, she could barely remember they happened at all. Luckily for her, the dream in which she'd met Coco the koala was one of the former ones. She could still hear every word he'd whispered in her ear. There was a lot to do before her friends arrived on Friday evening. First, she had to gather all the strange items that Coco had listed to her. She had to collect, in a little cup, the dew that collected on the grass at exactly 7 in the morning. She had to pick ripe blackberries off the vines that grew by the road. She had to drag all of the bed linen out of her family's airing cupboard, as well as the cushions from the sofas, chairs from the kitchen, and all of the soft toys from her bed. She had to find some fallen orange leaves, whisper a secret incantation over them 3 times, then crumble them into a fine dust. She had to unplug her dad's radio from his study and carry it upstairs. And she had to ask her parents to help her empty out her room. Empty it out, her mum said, her eyes wide with surprise. Completely. Yes, Snoozy Susie informed her. She needed it completely empty. Please, Mum, she begged. It's to build my best bedtime fort. Her parents had enough experience of Snoozy Susie's naptime antics not to make too much of a fuss, and helped her move all the stuff from her room into the corridor or their bedroom for the time being. But then it has to go straight back on the weekend, okay, Snoozy Suze? Her mum told her. Once her room was empty, Snoozy Susie could get to work. She shut the door, and when her parents heard a strange commotion, bangs and whizzes, and tinkling magical sounds coming from her room, they just exchanged knowing looks and shook their heads, and went downstairs to feed the dog. At last, Polly, Poppy and Pete arrived at Snoozy Susie's house, but they barely had time to knock on the bright yellow front door before it swung open, and there stood Susie herself, her blonde curls ruffled into disarray, a little sheen of sweat on her forehead, but a bigger grin on her face than they'd ever seen before. Polly, Poppy, and Pete waved goodbye to their parents as they were ushered into the house and hurried upstairs by Susie. What's the rush, Snoozy Suze? Polly asked. But Susie didn't answer. She just waved them up the stairs, led them across the landing, and stood expectantly outside her bedroom door, tapping her foot while they gathered around. Are you ready for the most spectacular nap you've ever had? She said, putting on her best magician's voice. Are you ready to enter a place the likes of which you've never entered before? Pete raised his eyebrows. Suze, this is your room. We've all been in there before. Ah, Snoozy Susie sighed. You might have, but not like this. Friends, I'd like to welcome you to the best bedtime fort. And with that, Susie opened the door and they all stepped inside. Snoozy Susie fully believed she could hear each of her friends' breaths catch in their throat. 1, 2, 3. And the sound, she couldn't deny, gave her such a deep sense of satisfaction. Because, truth be told, the inside of Susie's room no longer looked like the inside of her room. In fact, it didn't look like the inside of any room at all. Instead, it was as though they'd stepped into a magical forest wonderland. Pale pine tree trunks grew up out of Susie's wooden floorboards, disappearing up into a canopy of soft white sheets. Above the sheets, warm golden lights bobbed and gleamed, as though giant fireflies dozed beyond their veils, casting gentle shadows on the floor. Beanbags lay on the floor, and paper lanterns hung suspended in the air, their flames flickering softly. "This," Snoozy Susie said, "is the chill-out zone. It's the common area where we can all snooze and hang out together. And these?" Now she pointed to 4 sets of draped curtains that hung at the edges of the room. "Go through to our individual napping chambers. There's one for each of us, especially suited to each of our napping needs. Come see for yourselves." Dumbstruck, Polly, Poppy, and Pete followed Susie to the first set of drapes, lilac in colour, which she drew back to reveal a room full of lilac cushions with padded walls. In the middle rose a wooden platform with a thin mattress on top of it. "This is Polly's chamber," Snoozy Susie announced, "decked out in your favourite colour and with a super firm wooden platform, because I know how you like to nap on something hard, which might sound odd, but each to their own." Polly wandered into the chamber, looking around with wide-eyed wonder. "Plus," Susie continued, "these walls aren't just cute, they're super soundproof too, so you can nap completely undisturbed. Let's try it." So Susie let the drapes fall down, leaving Polly in her chamber. "Now," Susie told the others, "we have to make some noise." So she, Poppy, and Pete all jumped up and down and made some loud whooping sounds before she drew open the drapes again. "Could you hear that, Polly?" Susie asked. Then she let out a little chuckle, because Polly was already lying down on her firm mattress. "I couldn't hear a single thing," Polly sighed sleepily. "How perfect!" Next, Susie led them to a pair of pale blue drapes. "And this is Poppy's chamber," she told them, drawing the curtains back. Beyond was pitch darkness. "There's nothing there," Pete exclaimed, but Poppy was already stepping into the room. "Oh, yes, there is," Poppy whispered. "Oh, Susie, it feels like walking on clouds. I've never felt anything so soft beneath my feet. It's almost like I'm stepping on nothing at all, and yet I am. And what's that? What's that sound?" Poppy's voice was issuing from the darkness in her chamber, and now there came other sounds too. The sound of waves lapping against the shore, and of evening birds singing their dusky songs, and of music, gentle guitar plucking, that sounded suspiciously like lullabies played on a ukulele. "I made sure there was absolutely no light in your chamber," Susie told Poppy. because I know how even a little glint of light wakes you up. But also I've made sure there's a nice background wall of sound. All the gentlest, most snoozy sounds the world has to offer. Poppy poked her head out of the darkness, so it looked as though it was just hanging there, right in midair. She was smiling. Oh, Susie, it is perfect. I could just lie down and nap straight away. But let's see Pete's chamber first, shall we? Oh, we certainly should, said Snoozy Suze, leading them over to the set of yellow drapes that hung on the opposite side of the chill-out zone. She pulled them back, and they all peered into what appeared to be a tiny parcel of jungle, fit snugly into a napping chamber. The air was warm and humid, with jungle trees and vines climbing from the floor and wrapping themselves over the walls. In the middle of the room, a tree trunk grew, and its canopy spread out to create a soft bed of leaves. There was even a little ladder etched into the bark for you to climb up, and a warm golden light suffused the whole chamber, as though lit by some distant sun. Wow, Susie, Pete sighed. I couldn't have even dreamed this place up. Well, Pete, Susie told him, I know how you're a teensy bit afraid of the dark, so don't worry. The sun never really sets in this chamber. And from all the time you spend talking about the Amazon rainforest at school, I thought I'd try to bring a bit of the Amazon here for you, just until you get the chance to visit it when you're more grown up. Pete climbed up the tree trunk ladder and lay down on the leafy canopy. It's so warm up here, and comfy too, he said. It's like I've got my own napping treehouse. It's amazing, Susie. And Polly and Poppy, standing next to Snoozy Susie, agreed. None of them could quite believe their eyes. Let's go and hang out in the chill-out zone, Susie suggested, before we each go to our chambers to have our first naps. So her friends followed her back out into the chill-out zone, and they each flopped themselves down on a beanbag. Polly took the purple one, Poppy took the blue one, Pete took the yellow one, and Susie herself took a creamy white one. Their bodies sunk into them, and the beans inside the bag shook like maracas, shifting to accommodate the weight of their bodies. And like that, the four friends chatted about their lives as they often did. They spoke about their teachers, which of them had given a bit too much homework that weekend, and which had let them off lightly. They spoke about what they hoped would be for tea that evening. Susie's dad was downstairs in the kitchen, preparing to cook. And they talked about how it might be fun on Sunday to go to the park and play on the swings. As they talked, each of them began to feel their eyes beginning to close. They stretched their limbs lazily and yawned and blinked. I think it's almost time for our naps, Polly suggested. I think you're right, Polly, Poppy agreed. I can't wait for my first nap in the best bedtime fort. But before we go, said Pete through a stifled yawn, I have a question for Snoozy Suze. Do you, Pete? Susie asked. What's that? Well, Pete replied, this best bedtime fort, it's truly unbelievable. But how did you do it? It's not like we're in the real world at all, but a magical place of nap-time dreams, with fireflies and pine trees and oceans lapping far beneath our feet. How did you do it? Susie gave her friends a big smile, and some very special words came back to her. Some words she'd once heard a koala tell her in a dream. Oh, she said, it wasn't so hard in the end. All it required was a bit of engineering, a dose of magic, and a whole lot of hope. Polly, Poppy, and Pete thought about her answer, and it seemed pretty reasonable to them, so they nodded. They were feeling pretty sleepy anyway. So, one by one, they drifted off to their chambers. Polly closed the curtains on her soundproof dreamland, with its lilac cushions and its firm napping bed. Poppy slipped through the drapes into her dark wonderland, where the sounds of the sighing sea and of tinkling rain and lush plucked strings were ready to sing her into sleep. Pete crept into his magical jungle, climbed up to his treehouse, and nestled down into the leaves beneath the kindly light of a setting sun. And Snoozy Susie? Well, Susie got up off her white beanbag, crossed the chill-out zone, and drew back a final set of shimmery white drapes. And then, taking one more look around her, she slipped into her napping chamber. Hers, she knew, was the best. It was a very bare chamber, with only your standard cushions and blankets arranged on the floor. It looked like any normal, unmagical bedroom. Nothing fantastical here. And yet, it was the most magical place of all. Because as Snoozy Susie yawned and tucked herself under a blanket and rested her head on a pillow and prepared to drift off into a perfect nap, she knew that she was heading off too, into a magical dreamland, a forest with rustling leaves and a sleepy river, where her new friend would be waiting to greet her. Her new friend who lived in her imagination, a friend she could visit any time she wanted, in her plain white chamber, in her best bedtime fort. A koala with a kindly smile and his very own ukulele. Now we're floating into a deep and peaceful sleep. Feel how your muscles are relaxing. Your arms are heavy and your legs are too, as they loosen and release any tension remaining from the day. Feel how you let your body fall into the cozy warmth of your bed. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids be heavy. Breathe deeply. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out as you continue to breathe deeply, and as you keep feeling how your body becomes soft and heavy with sleep. Let your mind drift away. That is the wonderful secret about sleep. While your body rests, lying heavily in your bed, your mind is set free, like a bird taking flight from a branch and flying up and up and up into the air. Feel how your mind loosens now, like a balloon that has been untied from a fence, and floats up and up and up like a bird. Up and up and up it floats towards the sky, until it reaches up into the clouds. Imagine that you have risen up high above the world and your head has poked up through the clouds. Then spread out all around you in the silvery moonlight, white fluffy clouds that look like cotton wool or marshmallows. They look so soft and squishy. You can lie back on them and roll around in them. Try it now. Lie back in the soft cradle of the clouds. Feel how they swirl and wrap around your body, holding you gently in the world of sleep. Clouds come in all shapes and sizes. Some are big and fluffy, some are slender wisps. Some look like puffy mushrooms, and others look like paintbrush strokes that have been left on the dark sky. Let your body relax. Let your mind relax too. Let your mind float off into sleep. You are peaceful. You are safe. You are being held in the cozy warmth of sleep. With your eyes closed, let your mind drift up, up, up and away. In the world of dreams, you can go anywhere you like. You can float on blue oceans with ripples and tufts of waves. Or you can visit castles built in the sky with spiraling turrets and drawbridges over sparkling moats. Or you can wander into the peaceful woods where the birds are twittering and the trees are dense with dark green leaves. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out again as you fall more deeply into your cozy sleep. And with your eyes still closed, take a look around with your mind at where your dreams have taken you. When I fall asleep, I dream that I've gone to a world high up in the clouds. Sometimes the clouds are dappled silver from the moonlight. Sometimes they're soft pink and gold, reflecting the light of the twinkling stars. What form do your dreams take? Where does your mind go when you fall asleep? Maybe in your dreams there are flocks of white fluffy sheep huddling together on the green fields. Look at the mother ewe yawn widely before she tucks her little lambs beneath her woolly fleece. Or maybe you dream of a friendly dragon curled up with his tail wrapped around him, a little trail of clouds puffing out of his nostrils. Look, the cloud dragon is smiling at us and waving. What a friendly dragon he is. Or maybe you dream of cute puppies lying on their backs, their tongues lolling out of their mouths, their eyes closing because they've had such a long day. They look tired, and there's their papa dog, fluffy and white, padding softly over to wish the puppies good night. Up here on the sea of clouds, you can be free. Feel how light you are, weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Feel everything heavy from the day lift off you and drift away, taken away by currents until they disappear over the bank of clouds. Any worries you have been having, watch them float away. Anything that has been weighing on your mind during the daytime, now you can let them go and watch them drift away. Your worries are not you. You are not your worries. You can let them go. Watch them float away. Now you are light as air. You are as gentle as starlight. You are as soft as the clouds. Up in the sleepy sky, everything is weightless and peaceful. The clouds stretch out like a sea of tranquility. Close your eyes and feel the clouds wrap around you. Feel them bearing your body gently into the land of sleep. Feel your eyes close. Feel them rest heavily as your body relaxes into sleep. Feel your mind lighten. Feel it loosen and drift away, light as a feather, soft as the clouds. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. The world of clouds is waiting for you. Let yourself fall into the clouds' soft, warm hug. They are here to protect you. They are here to cushion you. They are here to hold you as you enjoy your deep and peaceful sleep. Sleep well, little one. Sleep well in the land of clouds. Feel how light you are. Feel how weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Light as air, gentle as starlight, soft as clouds. Good night, little one.